Hello, hello. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. I am joined here with Miss Delayna Watkins. We are discussing women's health tonight. Officially, our platform is called She Is Well, a discussion on women's health. We will be talking about all different subjects and topics in relation to that. And I'm really excited to have my longtime friend, Delayna Watkins, with me tonight. It's always exciting doing a webcast with you, Delayna. It's always a pleasure.
I know. You never know where that discussion is going to go, right?
Right. Oh my gosh. I remember back, years ago when you did the women's wellness lounges, and I think I was there as a guest speaker a few years back, and it was just an awesome experience. It really was. Yeah.
Yep. There, and you were sitting up. We were like up on a talk show, like stage.
Yes. I remember.
So good. Yeah.
That had to be like 9 years ago.
It was, because we're celebrating our 10th year this year. So it was about 9 years. You had just opened the heldh center not too long.
Health center. Yep.
Yeah.
My gosh, we've come a long way.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, I want to definitely introduce you to the audience for those who don't know you. I know you are known as a true wellness maven with a real passion for women's wellness. As a certified registered nurse with extensive clinical and leadership experience, Ms. Watkins is recognized in the industry of health and wellness. Delayna is most notably known as the CEO and founder of the Women's Wellness Lounge, an intimate space where she provides health advocacy and lifestyle change services to thousands of women locally and nationwide. She recently expanded this concept and launched a national TV show and podcast, the Women's Wellness Lounge Show, which provides education and entertainment content for women. Since pursuing her passion, Delayna has been recognized and featured on various national platforms and media, including the Dr. Oz Show, Fox 45, the Steve Harvey Morning Show, Wealthy Sisters Radio, Diva Zone Magazine, and other professional networks. Delayna is the visionary presenter behind the She Is Well book, a compilation of inspiring stories from women about power, strength, and wellness. So I want to welcome again Miss Delayna Watkins.
Thank you so much. I always love being on anything that you do. So I thank you so much for this opportunity and being able to share this platform. Anything that we can do together collectively to educate women on wellness, I'm there. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So, I have to, I'm definitely excited about talking about this book in particular, the She Is Well book. I got my copy a couple of weeks ago, and it's just amazing. All the different stories about women overcoming challenges to achieve balance, health, and wellness in their lives. So we're definitely going to talk more about the book later in the talk this evening with our discussion about women's health. We hear about this idea of wellness and why it's important. So really kind of defining what is wellness and understanding, what does it mean and why is it important?
Right. I think that's truly the crust and the backbone and the foundation of any discussion when you're talking about wellness, because here's what happened. We hear wellness probably undoubtedly several times throughout the day, week, month, hour. And I feel that, how anytime you hear anything repetitiously, it may lose its importance or its significance. And with wellness, we can't afford for that to happen. So I think that we have to make sure that we delve deeper into just thinking that wellness means our physical health. Wellness truly starts. I always say that you have to do the neck up checkup, which really just means what are you feeling? That's the emotional piece of it. When you think about wellness, it's really an inside job. It's really understanding that we are a whole being and everything is interconnected. And so if one piece of that is not in alignment, if one piece of that is out of whack, then it really kind of affects the rest of us. And so when we think about wellness, I don't want us to think of any one particular piece of it in a silo. So wellness is everything about you. It is how you think. It is what you feel. It is what you experience. It is all of that. really rolled into one, because we'll make decisions about what we do physically based on how we feel
emotionally
That's
at that
when
moment.
we're connected.
Right. And even looking at it from different elements and perspectives and aspects of our lives. So we have our relationships, we have our mental health, physical health, emotional, financial,
Yes.
all these different aspects. And all of this kind of affects us. That's really what it means to be well, is to kind of have balance in all areas, you think, right?
Absolutely. Yep. And that's what I mean by when we think wellness, the first thing that most people think is, how much do I weigh? What am I eating? I'm not exercising. Like, we immediately just go down this menu of things that has to do with the whole physical aspect. But it truly is like what you just talked about, your relationships. So it's physical, it's fiscal, it's relational, it's career, it's emotional, it's spiritual. It's all of that rolled into one. And that makes us the well person, the well-being. And so it has to be person-centered wellness and holistic.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's so true. And I think it's important that we really get to the root of what wellness is and not the externals of it, because I think people think, doing yoga and, lighting aromatherapy candles is, achieving wellness. And it's so much deeper than that, right? Not just
very much so. Yeah, very much so. And it's oftentimes because that's what we see. And so I always tell people, don't look at it with your physical eye, look at it with your mind's eye. And so that's why that whole checkup is so important. So sometimes doing nothing is really doing something. And what I mean by that is we have to sometimes sit down and be still with ourselves and really figure out, what is it that we've not dealt with? What is it that we've not sat down long enough to really unsee, right? What is it that we have pushed aside because we don't have time to deal with it, or the resources to deal with it, or the ability to deal with it? So sometimes sitting still and doing nothing other than really focusing on that really means that you're doing a lot. So again, wellness starts within, and it starts with your mind's eye, not your physical eye, but your mind's eye. Being able to see inside. We oftentimes don't deal with grief the way that we should. We don't deal with loss the way that we should, because we need to wake up and deal with the world. And so we don't sit still. We don't deal with change. We don't deal with out of our control. Even with this recent pandemic, we were told what we needed to do. We weren't even given an opportunity or time, a lot of us, to really wrap our brains around what was happening. How was our life going to change, right? And how did that affect our children, our relationships, the way we communicated with the outside world, the way we communicated with other humans? There is going to be some lasting effects that will come from that. But because we had to keep going, we really haven't taken the time to deal with what that means for us. And so here we go, compartmentalizing again, and then it'll show up somewhere else.
Yeah. And that can be a real problem. I think something unique about our experience as women is that we already carry the world on our shoulders, right? So we don't really have time to sit and take a moment to ourselves and absorb what's going on, or come up with just stopping for a moment. We have to keep moving. Things need to get done. The kids need to, we're not going to school. The kids are coming to the office with me.
Exactly.
We're doing virtual schooling now. It's all those fast transitions, and we got to go. Yeah. So, really coming back to this, now, our discussion tonight is about women's health. So what do you think are the key issues that affect health issues that affect women primarily, that really almost disproportionately affects us?
I'm going to tell you the one that definitely, I'm going to say all of them disproportionately affect us, but there's one that we now really call the silent killer, and that's heart disease. And heart disease has so many things that go into how women get to that point. Even though, a lot of it can be hereditary, but it's for all the reasons that we just described. It's the stress, and that's the distress, not the good stress, because there is such a thing as eustress, where it's healthy to kind of be in some stressful situations where it might be that your kid is graduating or you're getting a promotion or, you know,
Mhm.
you're getting married. That comes with stress, but that's what we call eustress. But it's
Stress.
this stress that women, especially particularly women of color, carry on their shoulders. And then we don't have the outlets or the resources or the proper information to deal with those type of things. And so we internalize a lot of that. And then that stress leads us to, you know, insomnia. So we're not sleeping,
Mhm.
we're not eating the proper foods. And so the number one health condition that I would say that a lot of us need to really pay attention to is going to be heart disease. And there was a statistic that I read about, Shinieri, that was really even surprising to me. I knew about the 1 in 3 women that are that affected that die from heart disease, but what I didn't know was that a woman dies every minute from heart disease.
Wow.
That was something that I learned recently. And although we really only recognize it and celebrate it, you know, during February, which is Heart Health Month, I think that that's something that we need to talk about regularly.
Right. Right. And even the way heart disease presents in women versus men, oftentimes, even in, you know, our study in medicine, you know, we know the cardinal signs of heart disease, which is like tightness of chest, pain going down the arm or up the jaw and neck. So we know kind of those key things. But studies have shown that it may present a little differently in women, where a cardiac event can be nausea, back pain, stomach discomfort. You know, which you don't think of when you're thinking heart attack, right?
Exactly. And what we'll say is, because women, we're so good at this, and we don't mean any harm by it, but remember, we want to always be well, and we always want to show up, and we always want to give our best selves, right? We always want to present our best selves first. And so even if we are experiencing those symptoms, we'll say that the nausea is from something that I ate for lunch. We'll say that the back pain is because I wore the wrong shoes today, right? And so we won't put those two things together, which is why it's a silent killer. Those separate, those two things may not mean a lot, but together those two things equal heart problem. And so that's why it's a silent killer, and that's why it's often overlooked, and that's why, like you said, it presents differently in women. And so why we're so disproportionately affected by that, because we won't seek treatment. And oftentimes even healthcare providers don't put those two things together because women don't seek help for it. Or when we're reporting, like, you know, when your healthcare provider says, so how have you been feeling? Describe to me anything that's been going on. We likely won't put those two symptoms together. We may say, you know, oh, I have been dealing with some back pain, you know, or whatever, but we won't put the symptoms together and report everything that's going on.
Right.
But your healthcare provider can then look at that and say, oh, together, that's an issue.
That means something.
That means something. And so again, it's going back to really knowing and being in touch with your body and not discounting anything, meaning
don't ignore it.
Yes, everything that you experience, it's you, it's your body. So if you're experiencing it and if it's not right, then it's something that you have to explore further.
Absolutely. And I think I'm a huge advocate for asking questions, for patients to ask questions and bring it up to your doctor or your medical provider. Don't be afraid to mention, you know, certain things that you've been experiencing just because you don't want to waste the doctor's time. You know, I've heard things like that where patients won't say anything because they just don't feel it's important enough, or they don't, want to waste the doctor's time, whatever that means. I mean, that's your medical provider. They're here to help.
Because when we think of doctors, we think that you have to be sick to be seeing them. That's number one. And so we go in with the I'm sick mentality. And so at the time that you're there, you're not necessarily experiencing or presenting with those symptoms. It is deemed in most women's mind that it's not important. Instead of thinking that your physician is there for preventive care, they're there for you for holistic wellness care, care. But most of us, when we think about the doctor, we think sick care. And so we think that those things that we're not experiencing now, or maybe had last week or last month, is not important. So then we don't report them. Or we feel like we have to be so sick that we need to now be seen by the doctor. We have to change the narrative and know that your healthcare provider is there for holistic care, not just to go see them when you're not feeling well or when you're sick. You have to think that I'm here for preventive.
And that's the key there. Being proactive about your body. Don't be afraid to speak up and find a medical provider that you're comfortable with, that you can feel comfortable talking to. That is very important. And we talked about that.
I have a relationship with my healthcare provider. We sit down before she even touches me. We talk for 5 minutes. Like we have, how are the kids? What's going on? How are you? How have you been feeling? What are you experiencing? Has there been any loss? Has there been any tragedy? Has there been any change? And the whole time she's gathering information. She's really trying to get a feel of what happened since the last time she saw me. So that's that holistic piece that we talked about, right? So other than just putting her stethoscope in her ears and listening to my heart and lungs and smile, breathe, push my hand, push my feet, just doing all those things, it's me showing up first. So find out what I'm doing first
as a person,
the vital signs and all that. Before you get all that physical presentation, find out how I'm doing, what I'm going through, what's, maybe, that I always say the giraffe view, right? You want to get that 30,000 foot view before you come to the turtle view, right? Before you really get in there, figure out what's going on.
Absolutely. And I think it's also important, oftentimes, we are aware of our own personal medical history and issues, but also understanding and knowing the issues that may run in the family. If there's medical conditions, heart disease, diabetes, etc. So, what is your, thoughts on the importance of knowing, your family history?
Absolutely. And listen, I am big on that. We actually had a wellness lounge, a workshop in the wellness lounge where we did that. I had them complete what was called the health legacy tree. And it was having them to look at what they could remember, what they knew about their health, their family's health. And then I encouraged them to take whatever branches of that tree that wasn't completed. I encouraged them to take it to the next family gathering, whether it was a funeral, a birthday celebration, a cookout, whatever gathering would bring your family together. The next time they were together, I encouraged them to take that worksheet and finish completing it. Your family history is very important to how your life tree, as I call it, will grow or not grow.
That is amazing. I really like that idea. You called it the health legacy?
Yeah, health legacy tree.
Wow. Yeah, I think I definitely, encourage that with a lot of patients. So, understanding these elements of chronic disease. I know we talked earlier about heart disease and how it presents in women, but other major medical issues that affect us, hypertension, obesity, diabetes, bone health, higher cases of osteoporosis or osteopenia among women, especially as you age, mental health, anxiety, and depression. So we're seeing that especially now during this pandemic. I'm just going to park right here because I would say, I'm not a mental health specialist. I'm not a counselor. I don't have any of those certifications, but increasingly I have found myself having to have those discussions with patients about depression and anxiety as they're going through this pandemic, as we are currently going through this pandemic. Patients who've never had a history of major depression or anxiety or panic attacks are suddenly having these issues. So, talking about mental health, emotional health, like how do we kind of navigate through that, especially now during the pandemic, as women in particular?
Absolutely. I think for women, oftentimes we measure ourselves, as I said before, how we present. And we don't ever want to present as though we don't have the tools or that we're not properly dealing with any particular situation, even if it's one that we don't have control over, such as this pandemic. We want to appear as though we're able to shift and move and handle things effectively, right? Because the moment we don't, then we're less than. Not all times, but it's just the perception, even in the midst of. And so understanding that, having depression and anxiety is real and that it's okay. Sometimes it can be related to a situation that you have, little to no control over, such as the pandemic, and then what transpired after that. But also there's the physiological changes that women go through, such as menopause, that whole transition that can oftentimes leads to our hormones, our levels going up and down.
Right.
And so although you may be showing up and performing and doing everything that you can, your body is undergoing a physiological change that can sometimes present a psychological impact. So it's not that you aren't, showing up and doing an A+ job. It is not that you are ineffective. It is simply because we as women, those gracious, beautiful beings, we go through what's called transitional womanhood. And so as such, our hormones will shift and we have a physiological change that is presenting us with a psychological change. And so it's okay. Talk to your healthcare provider about it. Share truthfully how you're feeling. If you're feeling that you're losing control, or that you don't have the resources, or that you're feeling overwhelmed, and that you're having anxiety. I myself went through it. I was going live and sharing that the emotional toll that pandemic took on me. And you should see that I guess with me saying that gave them permission to say, oh my God, me too. Oh my God, me too. They were all like, I wanted to make sure that there was nothing wrong with me. It's not. Share it, talk about it, find out, that there's resources, or there's ways in which we can together go through it, or find out for you that, okay, maybe I need to talk to somebody, about this, because I'm finding that I'm really struggling with my depression, and I'm finding myself being, anxious more.
Right. So being aware of it, and also being bold enough to express that, you are going through a challenging time and that you need help. A lot of times we as women, I was saying earlier, we carry the world on our shoulders, and we want to present that we have it all together, like we have it handled, like we can do this, we're super moms, and all that, but it's hard. For me, I know what to do, importance of stress management, but this pandemic, it takes you for a loop. How do you prepare?
It did. And that badge of honor, I can tell you, the badge of honor that we feel that we must carry, or that we have to present to the world, really, you can add to the badge, you can hold it up, you can put it on your shoulder, you can put the S on your chest. But by the same token, it's so freeing, and it really will elevate you to admit that but I'm also dealing with this as well.
Right.
Because it doesn't, you experiencing depression or having anxiety doesn't take away from your greatness at all. You're still great. It just shows that you can be great and still have that challenge, or that issue, or that experience. Right. And so for me, that is exactly what I got on there and said, like, listen, hello, the wellness maven is struggling here with this pandemic. Like, I came on and said, this has really shifted the way that I do things. I was struggling with trying to figure out how to get into a routine and a group. I felt like I was out of control. It was just, and so I really just kind of shared that and said, I don't know how I'm going to be able to, deal with this. It has shifted, even my family dynamics at the time. My children were home. And so I got on there and was just real. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to deal with this, And we
all have to. I think it's very liberating, because as you shared your story, women were able to step up and say, hey, I'm going through this too. I think there's something very liberating in just sharing your story, and why I always reference the book She Is Well, because it's about sharing these stories and then allowing women to release,
Absolutely. That's a good segue too, Shaniri, because even within that, I was telling women, it is so therapeutic. Like, share your story. There's women that that had not shared their story, but wanted to. Some were a little, I'm not sure. And I said, listen, your story is about you, but it's not for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's therapeutic for you to release it and help and share another woman who may be experiencing the same thing or going through it right then. You may be her breakthrough. So sharing that. And that day when I went on live, I had no idea who I was freeing. I just know I needed to tell somebody what.
Right. And you probably felt better afterwards for sure.
Listen, I felt so much better. I really had no clue. There was no agenda. There was no, I just got on there and said, listen, world, I have no idea, me, Delayna Watkins, how I'm going to handle this.
Yeah.
And I'm usually one who knows, like I have it all under control. I know what I'm doing, when I'm doing, and the expected outcome, right? And so definitely I have no control over that. I didn't know what the next move was going to be. So it was a little difficult. But the more I was expressing that, it was almost like I got on there and I was able to talk it out. But it was about me, but it wasn't for me. I was like sharing it. And then I had all these people commenting and pretty much sharing the same thing. You know, like, I'm right there with you, girl. I have no idea what I'm going to do. You know, I'm so anxious. I'm not sleeping. And just all of these various things that were happening because they were having to shift and having to do things differently. Not what the outcome was going to be, the length of time that this was going to go on, and all of that was happening. It was a lot.
It certainly was, and we're still kind of adjusting. You know, we're about a little over a year into this now, but you know, if anything, people are becoming more aware of themselves. They now had more time, you know, away from the long commutes to work, or you know, spending more time with their family because no one was going anywhere.
Right.
So I feel like it may have, in some ways, as hard as this pandemic has been, as rough and as just like tumultuous as it was, or as it currently is, it really does allow you to you know, kind of reach down deep and see, like, okay, you know, I survived this. I'm getting through this day by day, even with all the things that are going on. So understanding that even when we're going through challenging times, there's some level of strength and some level of development that we go through. Going like fire is kind of refining, right? It's real hot, but it's refining in the end. So, you know, your thoughts on just like going through difficult situations and tribulations in life. And I know that is, you know, a lot in the book, the She Is Well book. We talk about all these very difficult trials and tribulations that women go through, and how they survived and succumbed it to and overcame it to become to reach wellness, to reach balance, and receive strength.
That perseverance that we didn't know we had. And a lot of the authors, the co-authors for this book, that was exactly what you described is what they did. So when we're going through the situation or the experience in our life, we don't even realize what we're made of, right? It's sometimes it tears away at the very fiber of who we are. And Dr. Rika, who writes the foreword, talks about us vomiting our truth. And so oftentimes we will swallow different things, right? From the pit of ourselves, right from that pit of our, you know, womb, she talks about being able to share and vomit our truth can be so freeing. And it will allow us to know what we're made of. And that although we went in that situation, it does not define us, but it did show us that we can persevere, that we do have the power and the strength to be well. And that oftentimes it may cost us things. It may allow us to expose some things. It may make us, you know, leave some things behind, get new habits, new relationships, right? Because other relationships may be toxic and may not be serving us. It may have served us for that period of time, but not for where we're going and growing. And so I think when we go through tough times and, you know, rough situations such as the pandemic, there were people that there were people that nurtured talents that they had, but didn't have the nurture. There were people that were doing businesses, hobbies that they couldn't sit still long enough to do because they were always getting up at 6 o'clock, getting the kids together, going to work, coming home. And now they were finding the time to nurture those talents and found themselves deciding, this is what I was called to do. Not
Wow.
this particular thing over here that, I felt like, I had to go after that because it was the job and it brought me money. There were people who I was seeing, on my timeline that just said, although this pandemic has been horrendous, it has given me the gift of me nurturing this particular talent, right?
Right.
So being able to kind of go within, as I said before when we started this webcast, go within and to sit with us, sometimes that's where that power, strength, and then the ultimate experience of wellness happens.
Right. So disruption can actually be a good thing in that regard.
Yep. Once you think the norm on purpose is what I call it. Yes, disrupting the norm on purpose. So this disruption really freed a lot of individuals. Myself, I was able to, sit home and finish projects. I love doing a lot of DIY. So there was, after I had my little meltdown, I figured out, okay, this is what I can do with this time. And then I ended up, really just a lot of incomplete things that weren't done because I was pulled in different directions. I was able to do that. So that brought me some comfort, so that reduces your anxiety and gets you out of that, depressive state. So yes, sometimes when you feel like, disruption is there, like anything. My daughter has this thing that she says since she's 5 years old. She goes, bright side. And I never really knew what that meant. It used to drive me crazy because I used to always say to her, bright side, you're going to get in trouble. She would be like trying to think of what she could do, how I could look at the situation differently. Always the bright side. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So it's more of, really turning those lemons into lemonade, right?
Yes,
so
yes, that is exactly the one. Yes.
The silver lining in things. So, yes, I want to kind of give a shout out to Regina Knox. Thanks for listening in and thank you for your comment. I'm glad that you're joining us tonight. Please share with other ladies who would be interested in our discussion tonight. So, yeah, I mean, this book is amazing. I know in the foreword, just referencing what Dr. Wilson mentioned, I highlighted a few key things here that really just kind of struck me.
Right.
And she writes, when you get your mind back, you can rest when you are tired. You are obligated to take care of yourself because you recognize your value. And then she says, you are stronger than you know.
Yeah.
Your strength comes from knowing you are special and you are enough.
Highlight bold. I'm telling you, Dr. Rika Wilson, thank you for that. Yes. She ends the forward with that. And it again goes back to what we said before. You are stronger than you know, and you are enough. And oftentimes what we don't realize in that is that we also are equipped to deal with things, right? We always think that, something may be beyond, our control or what we can deal with or what we can handle. But you truly do have the tools within you. Oftentimes you just may need for someone to pull that out of you or to share with you where that resides in you, but definitely you are capable and you are enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing just recognizing that. And again, it's got to be more than just how we appear and how we present ourselves. Initially, it's really getting down to the root of, what we're dealing with, what's going on. Being comfortable in your truth, being honest about it as well, and knowing that, saying, hey, I'm kind of struggling here, having someone, there's people out there to help, there's people out there to support you, and knowing that, you don't have to go through things alone, right?
Absolutely. Right. And that's, I think, is the key, because the concept, or again, when you look at that healthy legacy tree that I talked about, oftentimes when we don't share what we're going through or what we're experiencing, right? The old mindset used to be what goes on in this house stays in this house.
Yeah.
And so may struggle, but we don't let the outside world in. We cannot think like that any longer. And although, like I said before, your story is about you, but it's not for you. And so we have to make sure that our children and our children's children understand and embrace a healthy legacy. We cannot, grow by thinking that we are to be deposited disease and illness and sickness. We have to change the narrative and know that we have the ability and that we have the capability and that we have the resources so that our children can lead healthier lifestyles, not sickness that they have to, get cured from, not illnesses that they have to prevent, but it's embracing a healthy lifestyle so that it's not something that they have to run from.
Right. So this idea of, I think the term I've thought of is generational health, right?
Yes.
Generational health. So really adapting a healthy lifestyle and adapting a healthy way of thinking, of living, of managing stress, and to where you will then be an example to your children or those in your household, so that there isn't this maladaptive behavior that's developed. And then that is then mimicked by your children over time. And then that's mimicked by their children and so on and so forth.
Right. So, and it's something that then has to be unlearned, right? Rather than teaching them from the very beginning. It's usually difficult to unlearn behaviors that you both witnessed and became privy to, right? So you then begin to take that because you've learned it, because you've kind of been immersed in it. And then you then carry that on to your family, unless you've made a change somewhere in there or chosen not to adopt it or adapt, your lifestyle to it, which is typically difficult because women play such a major role in health in their family.
Right. Yes.
They're the ones who generally go shopping. They do the cooking. They do the doctor's appointments. We do all of that. Like we're the ones that are pretty much over that aspect, those aspects of health in our households. And so if we're not adopting that and embracing those lifestyle behaviors,
the healthy choices, the
healthy choices. So it's like you said, maladaptive behavior. Absolutely.
Right. Absolutely. So I think, this idea of, one thing I like about what you do, Delayna, over the years is that you've always been about empowering women, about this kind of a tribal, like we're in this together. And really kind of, taking the initiative to educate and empower women to do better and enhance their lives in so many ways. You've got so many different projects going on and so many things that you've done in the past. I would love, both the past and the present, I would love for you to share a little bit about kind of what things you have going on as women out there, how they can get in touch with you and be part of some of the projects that you have going.
Absolutely. So yes, I'm always doing some type of empowerment for women because I feel, just as I described, and you did such a wonderful job describing us too, talking about how we do carry the weight on our shoulders. And what made me start my passion project initially 10 years ago, the Women's Wellness Lounge, it was just that it was a passion project. At that time I was working very closely with women during home care. And I noticed that I was invited into their home, not in the setting of the hospital where you are, kind of doing what's being provided to you. And so, of course, your behaviors are, what they are because the doctor said this. And so we're giving you that. In home care, I was in their environment. And so I was able to watch how women were doing it all and put themselves last. Like it's one thing to say it, it's another to see it. And so I was seeing that. And so that's what kind of propelled me to create that passion project of the Women's Wellness Lounge. I'm like, we need to get out of our households and come together and realize that we're not alone. And so I, of course, did the Women's Wellness Lounge. And then even beyond that, wanting to go further, I did, just as you've been speaking about, the She Is Well book project. And so this started out to be a solo project. It was going to be just me sharing my wellness nuggets, kind of over the years and getting it together. But God was like, this is a little bit bigger than you, because I could not make that thing happen, Shinyeri. And I usually don't have a problem with projects, but he allowed me to see that there was other women who had stories and experiences of power, strength, and wellness that needed to come together for his purpose. And so 20 other women joined me, and they shared their stories of, coming through relational, divorce, domestic violence, endometriosis, breast cancer, being raised through the system, just the whole gamut. Like we talked about before, relational, financial, spiritual,
Right.
physical wellness, emotional wellness, is all here. And so in this book, you can go to my website, DelaynaWatkins.com, and find out more about that particular project, as well as my VIP village. So, Shanier, you talked about how I love for women to come together. So, rather than being together physically, right now, we know it's a little challenging for us to get together. I created a virtual space called the Women's Wellness Lounge VIP community. And in that community, you will receive all of the support that I provide even when we're together. And so that's your monthly forums. It's your ability to do Q&A. We have expert wellness speakers such as yourself, other fitness providers. So we have a monthly fitness focus. So there's a private community where you can just go on and ask me any particular health concern or question. I provide health advocacy. So all of that in my VIP village. And so you can get more information about that by going to DelaynaWatkins.com.
Excellent, excellent. And then I understand you're on social media as well. You've got
Yes.
the YouTube page. So many things going on. You have always been amazing. Can you tell us how can people reach out to you on social media?
Absolutely. Yeah, I always forget about that social media because I'm always, so go to my business page, which is Delayna Watkins, the Wellness Maven, and also the Women's Wellness Lounge. So I do a lot in the Women's Wellness Lounge. Again, if you just want to kind of see what it's all about, if you've never heard about the Women's Wellness Lounge, what is this Wellness Maven lady? What does she share? What does she talk about? Go in the Women's Wellness Lounge, and that's where you'll really see a lot of the information, health tips, and resources that I share in there on social media. So I'm on both Facebook and Instagram at Delayna Watkins or the Women's Wellness Lounge.
Awesome. Great. I think, again, knowing how to get your hands on this book, She Is Well. I'm really enjoying reading the stories. I know a lot of the stories of the women in here, I can definitely relate to.
Yeah.
So it's so good to hear and know that you're not the only one experiencing or going through certain things, that other women experience it too.
Yeah.
And I really want, the ladies to know tonight who are watching to, definitely get engaged, definitely find your tribe. I know you have this amazing tribe of women, professionals from all walks of life who are part of your team. So, definitely want to encourage the audience to plug in and to follow you on social media. We'll have everything posted on our website as well as on our social media pages. But I want to thank you again, Delayna. If there's anything that you'd like to share, in regards to our discussion tonight, that would be awesome.
Absolutely. And thank you once again, Shanier, for this opportunity. And I think you said it best just now by kind of summing up that you are not alone, right? So again, as an individual, I want women to feel like they are part of a tribe. And that's the atmosphere that I created with the Women's Wellness Lounge. Again, when we're silent, we don't get the help we need. When we're silent, we don't get the resources we need. When we're silent, we don't get the support we need. And so I would love for you to join the VIP village. I would love for you to, again, if you just want to make sure that, I'm not somebody who talks about wellness during the day and then I go sell jewelry at night or, sell and I'm just, kind of partial to this. I have been in the healthcare industry over 30 years, even though I'm 21.
Hey.
Pretty much all of my life. I won't say most, all. I've known nothing but health and wellness, and I've been dedicated to nothing but health and wellness. And just for the last 15 years, it's been more focused on women's health and wellness. And so I am committed to this. I am here for you. I oftentimes will always, will over deliver. If you come to me with an issue or concern or need resources, if I can't provide that to you, I will definitely point you in the direction of someone that can. I think being a part of the She Is Well tribe, even if, and that's another group that's on Facebook. I forgot to mention that. It's the She Is Well Wellness Tribe. And so you can just join that. That's a free community to just get in there and also be amongst women who are, again, talking and sharing and I created that during the pandemic as well, during Women's Health Week last year, just because women were needing to talk to someone. So the She Tribe, that's a free tribe for you to join in as well. But yeah, definitely get connected with me, DelaynaWatkins.com. And I assure you that you will find something and learn something new that you didn't know before. And I'm definitely here for you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Delayna. It has truly been a pleasure. Thank you to our audience tonight. Certainly, if there was any information that you found helpful or inspiring that we discussed tonight, let us know. Share with, your girlfriends or friends. I think it's so important that we just get the message out about, really, focusing on our health and wellness. And it's okay to prioritize your health.
Yes.
As women, we don't have to put ourselves at the bottom of the list or bottom of our priorities because we keep it all together. So our health is important too. We got to take care of ourselves.
Yep. You're winning if you put your wellness first.
There you go. There you go. Well, thanks again, Delayna. Thank you all tonight for joining us. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.